the reason why we're doing the video is because we want to clarify how to become a registered veterinarian in Australia when you come from somewhere around the world, because we moved here and we had no idea about how it works, what do you have to do, what paperwork do you need to get ready. And we get a lot of questions in Instagram about this. So that's why we're doing this video. After the video, you're going to learn all the steps you have to do to start your Australian veterinary examination journey. I am Natalia. I am with Anto today. So we both live in Sydney, Australia, and we are registered veterinarians.
Yeah.
So I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself. I moved to Australia in 2017 when I was 27 years of age, and my English was quite broken. I didn't know anyone, and I actually lived in Australia for 3 years before I decided to go onto the journey to becoming a registered veterinarian in Australia. I moved here with no much money. I was working as a waitress, cleaner. I learned to make coffee until eventually I found a job as a vet nurse, and then I decided to go onto the journey to become a registered veterinarian, and here I am.
And I'm Antonella. I came to Australia in 2018. I didn't know anyone and my English was quite broken at that time. I was not planning to work as a vet in Australia. I worked as a cleaner, as a stable hand, so different kind of jobs until I decided that I wanted to stay in Australia, and I started my long journey to become a registered vet in Australia, and here I am. So the first thing that you have to do is check if your veterinary science qualification is accredited by the Australian Veterinary Boards of Council. There are a few universities that are accredited, so the first thing that you have to do is check if your university is an accredited uni.
Because if your university is accredited, it means you don't need to do the ABE examination and you can just apply for registration, which is fantastic. But unfortunately, a lot of veterinarians like us, we're not that lucky and we had to do the exam.
Yeah. If your veterinary degree is not accredited, the next thing that you have to do is check on the list, on the
World of List universities, and make sure that your university is on the list. That means that if your uni is there, then you can continue with your journey. Unfortunately, there are some universities that are not on the list, and that means that you may need to study veterinary science in another place.
Yeah. If your veterinary degree is recognized on the VetWorld University list and you want to work in Australia or New Zealand, you have to sit the Australian Veterinary Examination, ABE.
So the first step is the eligibility assessment. So you need to collect some paperwork, and what you have to do is send all the paperwork that we're going to talk about that in a moment to Australian Veterinary Board's Council, and they are going to assess whether you are an overseas veterinarian that is qualified enough to do the exam. This means that not everyone gets the opportunity to do the exam. So before panicking about what do I need to study, how does it work, where am I going to get experience for castrations and spay, where am I going to get experience for cows, how am I going to study, you need to do the eligibility assessment because it takes time to get the paperwork together. And once you apply, you need to pay a fee that changes from year to year. And then you have to wait until they let you know whether you can apply the MCQ or not.
And it's also important is if that paperwork is not in English, you need to have it translated, which is also something that takes time and money.
Yeah.
Yeah. Something very important that we need to mention on that eligibility assessment that you need to include is an English exam with a proficient score.
Yes, and this is where a lot of people get stuck, and this is where a lot of people lose their momentum and motivation, because it's not just about passing the English exam. Like Anto said, it's about getting the right score in every single section of the exam. So you do need to have a good level of English to be able to get this score to apply to the AVE exam.
Yeah, so there are multiple English exams that you could sit. One is the IELTS, other one is the PT.
The IELTS academic. Right?
Academic, yeah, IELTS academic. The other one is the PTE academic, the TOEFL, and also the OET. I personally did the PTE and I really like it. I recommended it. And you did?
For me, I did the academic IELTS and I failed. Well, I didn't get the score I needed and I thought it was incredibly difficult. And then I did the OET and I got the score I needed. And I personally love the OET because it's an exam for health professionals, physiotherapists, doctors, vets, dentists, and you have a veterinary section. It is more expensive, but I found it way more doable.
Yeah. So something very important that we need to mention as well is that there is a booklet for the ABBC. It's on PDF. It's very long, but a lot of the information, the important information for this pathway is found there. So I highly recommend to download it and read it.
Yep. So don't be lazy. We're going to leave the link on the description of this video, and please grab a nice cup of coffee, a tea, a hot chocolate when you have a day off, when you have time. Read the whole PDF document because it will tell you very important information for the whole process, and you need to really understand every single step of it.
So when you submit the eligibility assessment, you need to you pay the fee and you need to wait until they do that assessment. So when you get the approval for the assessment, the next step is sitting the MCQ. That means a multiple choice question exam. So in Australia, there is only one time a year that you could sit that exam. There are different branches available year by year. So you have a few in Australia: Sydney, Melbourne, Perth. There is also one in New Zealand. You have overseas branches as well, where you could sit it. India is one of the countries that you could sit the exam, but you should check.
Dubai,
yeah.
Singapore, and America, London, and New Zealand, but India, Singapore, and Dubai changes from a year to year. So it's very important to contact the AVBC. So what we mean by branches is that we get asked this question on Instagram all the time, and it's, can I do the AVE exam outside Australia? If I live in India, do I need to be in Australia to do this exam? And what Anto said is, well, it depends where in the world you are. If you want to do the MCQ, which is the first part of the exam outside Australia, you can, but you need to check the specific countries that have the exam available on that year. So you could do it in India or Singapore if you're lucky that year. So yeah, but not the practical exam. Yeah. For the practical exam, which we're going to talk about that at the end of the video, the practical exam is the second step of the process. You do need to be in Australia to do that.
Yeah, something that we also need to mention is the MCQ. The fee is around $3,200 of changes year by year. So the last update that we have in 2024 is $3,220. You need to, Australian dollars, you need to pay that fee in advance, so before the MCQ. And as we said, is usually held once a year in April.
Yeah, so this is something very important. I've seen a lot of veterinary overseas vets working in Australia as a waitress or as a vet nurse, and I asked them, are you thinking about becoming registered in Australia? Oh, I don't have $13,000 for the exam. I was like, you don't need to have $13,000 straight away. You pay the eligibility assessment first, then after a few months, once you apply to the MCQ exam, you only pay the MCQ fee, and once you pass the MCQ, you have 5 years, right? 5 years to complete the practical exam and pay the practical exam. So that's very important to know. You have time to save the money. So that is not an excuse.
Yeah, I'm completely agree. Then when you pass the MCQ, you, in some states of Australia and New Zealand, you will be able to apply of something called limited registration. We, both of us, apply for that limited registration in New South Wales. That gives you a license to practice as a veterinarian while you are studying or getting ready for the practical exam.
And it's important to clarify this. What is a limited registration?
So a limited registration, you have a veterinary license, and that allows you to work as a vet under supervision. Not a strict supervision, like someone needs to be in the room with you all the times, but you need a supervisor, someone that will respond for you and be there for you in case you have any legal issues.
Yeah, so when I did the MCQ, I applied for limited registration, and in that time, one of the limitations was that you're not allowed to dispense S8s. A fully registered vet is the one that has to get the S8s for you. And if you don't know what S8s are, well, stay until the end of the video because we're going to tell you how you're going to get ready for this exam.
So when you pass the MCQ, you start studying for the practical exam, getting the experience you need, practical and theoretical as well. And you need to send expression of interest. First of all, no. Empecemos de vuelta.
Okay.
¿Quieres explicarlo vos?
Okay.
De practical.
Okay, so moving on to the last step of the journey is the practical exam. Once you pass the MCQ and you have your limited registration, as we said, you have 5 years to do or sit the practical exam. And once you do and pass the practical exam, you get your full registration as an Australian veterinarian.
Yay!
Which is very exciting. But the practical exam cannot be taken lightly because you need to review everything that you studied for the MCQ. Why? Because even though it's called practical exam, you have oral examinations with 2 examiners, and it's an oral exam and they will test you on your knowledge. So you need to review all the things you studied for your MCQ, and you also need to have some hands-on experience with horses, with cows, with sheep, with dogs, and with cats.
Yeah. It's important to know the practical exam could only be set in Australia, not anywhere in Australia. At the moment, only the University of Queensland in Gatton is the only place where you could sit that exam. That means you need to travel and take the time off to go to sit those exams. At the moment, there are 9 exams. Some of them, as she said, practical with hands-on, and some others theoretical with 2 examiners sitting in front of you. So it's very important to not only save money to pay the fee for the practical exam, also save money for the time off that you are going to take, flight tickets if you need to take a plane, or fuel accommodation for that week. So it's from Monday to Friday. You sit 9 exams in 5 days.
And how much is the practical exam?
So at the moment is $8,240 Australian dollars. But as we said, you have plenty of time to save that money.
Yeah.
It's a lot of money.
Exactly.
Yes,
but to be honest, you also need to be a little bit smart about it. And this is why you're going to be with us for the whole journey, because we lived that, we learned the hard way. No one was telling us what to do. And that's why we are here for you guys. What happened to me is that I was working, when I passed the MCQ, I applied for limited registration and I started working as a veterinarian under limited registration, which is like working as a new graduate veterinarian. New graduate means that you just graduated, you're fresh from uni and you don't have much experience, so the salary is the same. But it's because that veterinarian or that vet hospital has to take on the responsibility to supervise you, and they need to sign the paperwork and all of that. But it is a great opportunity to learn how to do a spay or castrate and learn the way that Australian veterinary science works, improve your English. So it's okay if you don't know how to do a castrate or a spay, because you're getting paid like a new graduate veterinarian, no matter if you have 10 years of experience or 1 year or no experience. Because you have a limited registration, your salary is going to be, once again, the salary of a new graduate. But because I was working with that vet practice while I was getting ready for the practical exam, my boss did help me at paying the fee of the practical exam. And that is what happens to a lot of the candidates. A lot of the vets that were studying with me to do the practical exam, their boss paid for part of the cost of that examination, which is amazing. It's absolutely amazing and a massive help. My boss at a time, he paid for half the price of the practical examination.
Oh yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
So in my experience, when I applied for the limited registration, I started doing an internship with horses in an equine hospital. And when I became fully licensed, I started working in a small animal clinic. I didn't get any help from any of my employers, but
it was because you started working there like new, right? You were not there for a long time.
Yeah, that's true. Exactly. And I didn't ask for any financial support. I was able to save the money anyway. So even if you don't get that amazing support from your employer, you could save the money.
Yeah,
you can save the money.
I guess the only way of getting the financial support from your employer is by being there for a long time. So one of my friends actually, she started working as a vet nurse in this vet hospital in Australia. After 2 years of working as a vet nurse, she started the process of the AVE, and she studied for a whole year for the MCQ. She passed. And she's that in the same place. The boss said, okay, now you can work as a vet here. You can stay working as a vet here. So now she's working as a vet there, where she was working as a vet nurse previously. And the boss is going to help her at paying the practical exam. So I guess the only way of getting that financial support is by staying with that company for a long time. It's not that you'll find a job and you say, hey, by the way, I'm doing the practical exam next year. Can you please pay for the exam? Don't be that person, because they will say, you know what, go outside and find another job. So just be careful, right?
Yeah. And tenemos que decir lo de Brainy Bilby.
Sí. Anything else? I think that's it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's pretty much something that we call AVE journey. That is how you bring your veterinary degree from all that part of the world into Australia and get your Australian license. And now we have something to tell you that is going to be very important.
Yeah, so between the two of us, we didn't know anyone who was doing these exams. We met and we decided that we wanted to help overseas veterinarians to start this journey, to make their journey easier, and everyone to know our experience, that we came here with not extra savings, with not the perfect English, not previous veterinary experience, and here we are working in Australia as a fully veterinarians, as a fully registered veterinarians, and we want to help you mentoring this long ABE journey, and we are here for you. We are planning something called
Brainy Bilby.
Yeah, so
Brainy Bilby is something that we have been working on for the past 2 years almost. We are coaches, we are mentors for the Australian veterinary examination. So you're not alone. We're going to help you on how to study for the MCQ, how to get organized, how to stay motivated and accountable, and you're going to be able to achieve your dream of becoming a registered veterinarian in Australia, because for us, it was very difficult. As she said, we didn't know anyone within Australia. We didn't know anyone within the industry. We had broken English. No one helped us. No one told us what to do and what to study. One of the things that I found most difficult about this Australian exam is that you pay the eligibility assessment and you're like, okay, I'm doing the exam. And once they say, yes, you can do the MCQ exam, that's it. You have nothing. You have no resources. You have no help. You are absolutely lost. And it's very, very overwhelming.
Yeah. So we have been creating very important resources that we wish we had when we started this journey.
And we know what it's like to be where you guys are. So Brainy Bilby is coming soon. Is a website, is the only Australian website created by overseas veterinarians that live in Australia full-time, that work full-time as registered veterinarians, and you will be able to study for the MCQ exam. So we created questions for the Australian veterinary examination, and you will be able to enroll into our mentoring course that is going to be a 6-month course, where we're going to be with you. We're going to meet with you every 2 weeks, and we're going to have resources, and we're going to help you to study for the exam.
We are also creating study guides that you may find useful for the practical exam or also for the MCQ. So very important guides on important diseases in Australia, how to study for part of the practical exam. So yeah,
And it's very important to know, guys, that in Australia we have a lot of problems with scammers. So scamming is a big thing. Everyone is trying to steal money from people however they can online, and sadly there have been a few scammers or a few people trying to steal money from the overseas veterinarians by creating very low quality courses, very low quality ebooks, or very low quality presentations, and they're charging money to these overseas students, and they saying, come and study with me and you can pass the exam. And be mindful of that, because these are people that don't even live in Australia full time, haven't even finished the whole process. They perhaps have done the NAVLE, but be very mindful of very small courses that are quite cheap, that don't seem quite right, because unfortunately a few overseas veterinarians have paid the money and it has led them to nowhere. So it's very important to know that.
Yeah, so I think that's all for now. We are happy to help you through this journey. We are always happy if you have more questions. We are here for you.
And make sure you check our blog. It's Brainy Bilby. It's a newsletter. We send a free newsletter every 2 weeks. We send very valuable information and it's for free.
Yes.
So go ahead and read the caption below, where we're going to share all the information. Yes? So happy studying and make sure you land your dream to become a registered veterinarian in Australia, because we love our life in Australia, right? Yeah, so, and you will love it too.